Okay, so we are about to weigh out our dry ingredients. This recipe, I found this recipe from Bath Bomb World, and I will post the link in the description below. I made some tweaks to this recipe, and so you may want to do the same thing. So you, depending on where you live, if it's more humid where you live or things like that, or you have certain preferences over oils and things like that, you may change. Also, the fragrance load is pretty high, so you might want to come down a little bit. I found that using the fragrance load at the way that they have it on the recipe, it was a little bit much, and it would eat at the bath bombs, so I stopped using so much. So I'm just going to measure out and sift my baking soda. Normally when I make my bath bombs, I just measure out all of the ingredients, but a lot of people leave out the citric acid till the end so that it can accept more color. So we'll try that today. Okay, so we're measuring out. We measured out our baking soda. Now we are adding Epsom salt. Tear out your scale. Everything is done by weight, so make sure you weigh it out on your scale. Do not try to, use cups and tablespoons and things like that. Weigh it all out. And make sure when you're using your SLSA that you are wearing a mask. And you don't want to just dump it in there because it is airborne and it will get all up in your throat. And I do it close to the bowl so that it's not all, too close to my face and all over the place. Ha! That rhymes. Okay, we are weighing out the Kaolin Clay. Today's waffle, I am going to do red velvet, but you guys be creative. You can do whatever kind of waffle you want. You can actually use the buttermilk or whatever kind of waffle you want. Blueberries, banana. Be creative, and be creative with your toppings. I'm now weighing out my cornstarch and cream of tartar. Mix this. I'm going to add the colorant into this, and we are going to test the theory if adding the citric acid works best after you colored your baking soda. So this is red velvet, so I want it to be like a deep red. I'm going to use I don't want to put too much, but I want it to definitely be deep red, like a red velvet. Okay, so this is totally up to you, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out my citric acid, set it to the side. I'm also going to set aside my wet ingredients, put those to the side, set aside my wet ingredients, and just have everything in front of me so that I'm able to move a little bit more efficiently. Okay, so we're going to sift out this citric acid, put it to the side. Okay, so I'm weighing out my oil, and you can use any oil that you like to use, that you like to work with. My fragrance oil, like I said, I'm using a little bit less because that works for me. And Polysorbate 80. And this is so that the oils and the colorant does not stick to the tub. I'm going to add my Witch Hazel at the end. I'm not going to do it in here because it thickens up the oils and the polysorbate, so I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to do that right before we add it into the dry mix. Okay, so what I'm going to use is my paddle attachment. Okay, so the rest of this we are going to do by hand, so we're just going to give it a good mix. Also make sure that all of the baking soda and all the ingredients are incorporated, so you don't have any spots of white at the bottom. And in order to test out if your mixture is ready, they tell you to let it have the consistency of wet sand, and it should hold together like that. If it doesn't hold together, then you need a little bit more of your binder. And like I said, I used Witch Hazel. This is the mold that I'm using. It has 2 little pieces of butter there, 2 little slices of butter, but I'm not going to use this. I'm going to put little heart butter on top, and I'm going to drizzle. We'll see if it's going to fail, but in my idea, that's how I want it. I want it to drizzle a little bit, put the 2 little hearts, and this is a red velvet waffle. You can add frosting to this. You can add nuts, bananas, whatever kind of waffle you make. That you could add blueberries. Whatever kind of waffle this is for you, you can do that. You could add embeds in here to make the color pop out. But for today, we're just going red because, like I said, this is a red velvet waffle. When you're filling your bath bomb, you want to make sure you take a little bit first so you can fill in the details. So just take a little and press that lightly into the crevices of the bath bomb mold. And you want to make sure you get it in the corners so you can have a pretty shape. And when you put it in your mold, I like to move it back and forth like that. And make sure, again, you don't want to pack it down too much, but you also don't want to lose out on your shape and it breaks on you. So you want to make sure that it's firm enough that it will not break and crack on you. That looks good. Just gently squeeze the sides. And there we go. All the detail is in there. As you can see, it's not much left in there. So let's get it going. And as you're making your bath bombs, you want to just make sure that you check your mixture periodically because it will start drying out. And if it starts drying out, your bath bombs will not hold as firmly. So you want to make sure that you check your mixture to see if it's damp enough. Keep doing the squeeze test to see if your mixture is still holding up. And if it is, you are good to keep going. If not, give it a few more spritzes of Witch Hazel. And you don't necessarily have to use Witch Hazel, but Witch Hazel is called for in the recipe that I'm using. You can use alcohol and you can also use water. I've tried both and I like the Witch Hazel. And I like to hold mine at the bottom before I let it go because, see, like this one. Oh, you can't see it. This one, you'll get a crack. See, I have a crack in that one. So we don't want any cracks. So I'm going to throw that back in the mold. Back in the bowl and mix that back up. I am going to continue to make a few more because I have a little bit more mixture left. I just want to encourage you guys to make this recipe and to tweak it. And when I say I tweaked the recipe, it didn't come out right the first time. You know, I'm getting messages from people saying, oh, it didn't work. But you have to exhaust your possibilities first. You have to try different things to see what it is that's going to work for you. When I tweak my recipes, there has been a lot of failed batches. There has been a lot of mistakes. There has been a whole lot of fails that of things that just didn't work, period. So when I tell you to tweak it, it's just so that you can figure out what works best for you. And like I said before previously in the other video, what works for me may not work for you, and what worked for somebody else may not work for me. So you have to mess around with it a little bit to see what works for you. Especially since we are in different areas, you know, the humidity is different. Especially if you're making bath bombs and it's a rainy day, you may want to try a different recipe. You may want to try a recipe that's doesn't matter if you're in a humid area. You may need to, maybe your bath bombs are not coming out because maybe you need a dehumidifier. Maybe it's just too moist in the air and your bath bombs start to react. So you have to tweak things to see what worked for you and see why something isn't working for you, because everything is not, even though you have a recipe, is not one size fits all. So, and then you have your own preferences of the things that you like to use, you know. So you may not want to use a dye. You may want to use micas. You may want to, you know, you may not want to use fragrance oil. You may want to use essential oils. So these are the things, your binders. You may want to use alcohol. Alcohol works better for you. You know, you have to try different things in order to see if those things are going to work for you. So don't just try once and say, oh no, it didn't work. You have to, I've been doing this for 11 years and everything that I created did not work. And it takes a lot of practice and a lot of patience in order for you to come up with a successful product. So with that, I want to encourage you to keep going. If it doesn't work out for you the first, second, or even the third time, if it doesn't work out for you, keep trying. And if it's not working after the third time, then try a different recipe, try a new way, try something different. But I would encourage you to keep on going if this is something that you want to do. These are that. I'm gonna let these dry, and we are going to go into the truffle, so I can do my heart slices of butter. And I don't want to say truffle butter because that's what it is though, but you know.